Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Nightmare Cabin, and welcome back to episode 3 of Rushcast. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Paul Conroy, drummer of Audioscope. Check out their album Secret and Lies, and he's also had some gigs this week with his covers band. How did that go? You're back from your
I'm back from my world tour of South End of Rochford. It was good. It was all right actually. It was they were good gigs. People enjoyed themselves, and people standing up and singing at the top of their voices as well. So you think, well, that's good. So yeah, it was good fun. Relieved it was over, because in between that I had to do a track day with my sons, so I was exhausted. Sunday I just didn't see much of. I was asleep most of it, but no, it was good fun, and roll on the next one.
Brilliant.
But it was good. It's good fun. Very good fun. Thanks.
Well, if this is your first episode, this is the third episode, so there's time to catch up on the previous two. But what we are doing, we are going through the entire back catalogue of Rush, doing an album with each episode. So this is number 3. So of course, this week we are going to be reviewing Caress of Steel. And this is the oddball in the catalogue.
Yes, it is.
I don't think it's a particularly controversial album. I just think it was. I don't think it's controversial amongst the fans. If anything, I think this album's aged quite nicely. Actually,
yeah.
It's quite revered amongst fans. It was the fans at the time. The world wasn't ready for this, was it?
No, that's very true. And it was the album that really got slated by the music press. It got very bad reviews, and it sold really badly, which was a shame. And it's only retrospectively, listening back to it, that actually this is a very important album. In Rush's development, definitely, because it's a massive stepping stone from Fly By Night to this one.
Yeah, so Fly By Night was released 15th of February 1975, and this was released September 24th 1975.
Yeah.
So
2 albums in a year, and touring incessantly in between.
Yeah, so what a massive leap forward in such a small amount of time. I mean, how long would it have took to record this? Because this is some pretty
there's some
intricate
great
stuff.
There's some intricate stuff, and it's actually very well recorded and produced by Terry Brown. Again, I think he weaved his considerable prowess as well on this album. I think in these days they could record an album in a month. I think that was generally the going rate for it.
Well, you can imagine something like the debut album just being knocked out in a couple of days, because it was.
That
particular album felt quite live, and you can imagine them just sort of press and record, especially on Working Man, and just go for it, and we'll just take the best take.
With that,
this would have needed some piecing together.
Yeah, that first album was recorded what they would call dead time in the studio. So in other words, in the middle of the night to keep the costs down and stuff like that. Fly By Night, and this one was more expansive, I guess, with regards to their production quality. And this is, I think this is a very well engineered album, and it sounds quite rich, quite luscious in places. And there's some. This is the beginning. This is the precursor to the epics, and it's got 2 epic songs on here. This is where Neil Peart has got total control of the lyrics. He writes all the lyrics on this album onwards, whereas Fly By Night was still an outfall. That's the wrong word, but there was still some material there which was of the Rutsy era. Whereas this time he does all the lyrics, and this is where he starts exploring these big themes, of myths and legends, and later on science fiction. Without Caress of Steel, you wouldn't have 2112, A Farewell to Kings, and Hemispheres. This is the Genesis Rush epics, whether you call it prog rock or prog metal or whatever you want to call it. So it is a very, very important album, and it is easily overlooked. It's the one album that I've played the least and listened to the least over the years, but really enjoyed listening to this one. I suppose because I'm older, not necessarily wiser. I say, and it's effectively 5 songs. I know that we're going to get to Fountain of Lamnef, but that's split into 6 parts. But we'll come to that.
Funny enough, as well, just to interject there.
Yeah, of course.
Parts 4 and 5 of the Fountain of Lamnef. I don't know if you can pronounce this, but Panacea.
Yeah.
And Bacchus.
Oh,
Plateau.
Bacchus Plateau.
Right, those lyrics actually written by Geddy Lee.
That's interesting because I didn't know that.
That's according to this book. Anyway.
Right. Well, I've got a slightly different with Panacea. It's the music. Oh, hang on. Yeah, Panacea. The music is written by Geddy Lee, not the lyrics. It's the music. And Bacchus Plateau. What have I got about that?
Maybe it's just Lee that's wrote the music then.
Well, yeah, it is.
And Lee's wrote the. Let me.
Yeah, that's what it said.
Music Lee Lyson, lyrics Pip, except where noted. No, it says lyrics Lee. Yeah.
Oh, right, that's interesting. That's different to what's in this book. And okay, that's interesting. I'd obviously missed that. That is very interesting. I've got the music bit about Lee on Panacea,
and the credits on the CD I've got here are so small.
Yeah, do you know? No, there was no way I was going to be able to read those lyrics, so I've actually resorted to printing them off just to get them a bit bigger so that I can see them. No, I didn't know that. Now that is interesting because it says on here that Pierre wrote the whole lot. But there you go. There we go.
Yeah, the credits are at the bottom of the lyrics, and that's even smaller than the lyrics. I do get a booklet with these though, so I'm not that bothered, and I don't think you are either.
No, just at the end of the day, we're looking at it's minutiae, isn't it? Really. Yeah. But what did you think of the opening track on this one?
Bastille Day. About the is this about the French Revolution?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's all about the everything that's going on at that time. I thought it's a good punchy opening and a good way to start the album.
It's I'm trying to think of the of who the riff reminds me of. That down 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 bam 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 bam. I'm trying to think who that reminded me of, but I can't think off the top of my head. But no, it hits the ground running. It's got a nice nice opening riff.
Yeah.
That and then once it kicks in, it sort of hits the ground running, and then sort of goes into this nice soaring chorus. We're in familiar enough territory though.
It is familiar. Yeah. It's
I think the first maybe Lakeside Park. Well, the first 3 songs I say, you could fit them on any of the first 2 albums.
Yes, you could.
I think second track, I think easily could be on the first album.
It is. Yeah.
But no, this is how you open an album, and it's a familiar Rush song at this point.
It is, and it's not really a happy lyric, is it? But they're marching to Bastille Day. The guillotine will claim her bloody prize. Free dungeons of the innocent, the king will kneel and let his kingdom rise. I mean, really, very clever, very, very clever. But yes, it's all about the French Revolution. And but it is. I mean, he starts off.
Beer all down my throat.
Oh well.
It's a grapefruit beer made in Germany. It looks a bit.
So, what do you think of it? Oh no, we're not reviewing the beer, but
well, it just went. So it's only 2.5 though. So
well, that's all right.
It's a nice light one. But yeah, I was hoping that was going to last the show. But never mind.
It's as you say, going back to the music. It is a good punchy opening. I mean, it's quite a bombastic sort of opening, certainly with Liam Peart with the accents and the phrasing, and then you say it's quite a melodic chorus on this particular song. It's quite strong melodically as well. It's not just got that power that Rush have got. So yeah, and some great. I know there's some overdubs on the guitar at the end. Well, I think he does three. I think it's 3 guitar lines to just give it that bit more panache or finesse at the end. But whenever they played this live, I think they played it because they played it pretty loud and it still come across really well. And they used to open this. They used to open their gigs with this one.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It was an opener, and you can imagine it, can't you? It's just
I think that makes sense. It is just an opening song, isn't it? Yeah, you got that little start-stop bit at the end of the bam, 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 bam. It's great stuff.
Oh yeah, really, really good.
No, yeah, they come out swinging, and they always seem to do on their openers.
Yeah, they do tend to. I think they sort of want to grab your attention straight away with something that's immediately sort of in your face, really. I like it. It is still regarded as, I don't know if it's regarded as a classic, but certainly it's quite a favourite with a lot of the Rush fans anyway. And I think at this time they were losing fans as well as gaining fans, so it's sort of they were in a state of flux really at this point. But yeah, and I think, I don't know if you've got this comment in your book at all. It says here, the final majestic end of Bastille Day was once remarked on by Mike Portnoy to his bandmates while they were trying to name their band that would eventually become Dream Theater, that the song was directly responsible for their original name, Majesty, which I didn't know. Which is, I didn't know that, but there you go. It's a tiny little nugget there.
I know Dream Theater did sort of evolve from a previous band. I think they formed in not schools. Like, I think they was in music college together, something like that.
Yeah.
And I know the first Dream Theater album is a bit like Genesis's first album. It's under the name Dream Theater, but the Dream Theater that we know isn't really until.
Yeah, exactly.
The second album is officially the first album, but there was an album under the name Dream Theater before, and only the real fans go back to buy it, is sort of thing. But
that's true. Yeah. I don't really think there's anything more to say about Bastille Day, unless of course you want to.
I don't know about you, but I looked in the mirror today, and my eyes just didn't seem so bright.
Yeah, that's it. This is the next track, of course.
I've got a few more grey hairs. I think I'm going grey.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah. Oh, well, this track is a classic Rush track. I think I'm going bald. Well, the problem is, Joe, I tried to stay optimistic. I still think I am going bald. I'm not digressing slightly, but I'm a bit like a character from Only Fools and Horses called Jumbo Mills, who's like this. And he says to the other cast members, "You think I'm bald, don't you?" And they're all saying, "Yeah." And he said, "No, this is a medical condition. And my doctors have reassured me that my hair could grow back any time soon." Now, for me, I'm still waiting virtually 30 years later.
Viewers, Paul still carries around a comb.
Yeah.
he just can't part with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He just.
So apparently, this song is a reaction stroke Mickey take to Kiss. I think I'm going blind.
Yes, that's what I've got. I didn't know that, so that's quite interesting.
Which is pretty typical Rush, really. When you
I think Rush are sort of often portrayed as a humorless band, but they've got a sense of humour. I think possibly because they're Canadian, it might be a slightly different sense of humour, but I can see there's a certain joy there. And this was supposed to be comedic anyway, and I think it was in answer to like a parody of the Kiss track, but also partly to annoy Lifeson, who was convinced he was losing his hair at this point, which I thought was quite interesting. But it is quite it's an interesting number in that, I mean, it starts off with that sort of growly guitar, and then you've got this very, I mean, Rush would become well known for this. They would incorporate different styles into their music. Like reggae was the most notable in the 80s, mid 80s. But here it's funky. I mean, the drum line is quite funky and the bass line is, so it sort of gives it a slightly different feel.
I think this is quite Zeppelin-y.
Yeah. But I find it quite an interesting, the way it's played. It just sort of jumps out at you a little bit. I certainly find it quite an interesting song in that respect. Some people really have said that these are probably Peart's worst ever lyrics. Well, I think it was meant what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a bit tongue-in-cheek and a bit of a...
Yeah, did he mean to write a deep philosophical song and just something went wrong along the way?
No, I don't think so. I mean, how can you? I mean, it's all about, it's sort of a reminiscence,
I think it finishes with quite a good line, actually. If I'm going to go grey, I'm going to go grey my way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I say.
Yeah.
You know? But I again, though, the music at the end, I mean, there's some great playing on this. I mean, Peart at the end, he's virtually soloing right across the top, even like some quite bombastic sort of almost big band sort of drumming. I think there's some really good playing on this song, and it does get overlooked, and it certainly is voted one of the worst songs, and people don't tend to put it.
Yeah, the lyrics I think do tend to overshadow how good the song actually is, because there is some. I mean, Alex does some stellar soloing on there as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I think not that anyone would undervalue Neil's playing, but I think that one can sort of lure a drummer into a false sense of security. I think they could sort of drum along to it, and then when it gets towards the end of the song, they'd be like, trying to catch up, thinking, "Oh, hold on."
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's really playing on and off of the riff, and it's really very, very clever, very, very clever indeed. And it's all being pushed along with that sort of quite funky sort of bass line. I mean, it's underneath it all, but you can still hear it. It sounds really good. Really great playing. But we say that about all of them. That it's always good musicianship. But again, even here, you can hear that they're just a little bit. They're trying to push their boundaries a little bit on this one, on this album generally.
We'll move. Moving on. Another Zeppelin-y riff to open up Lakeside Park. It starts off quite, Zeppelin is the best way I can describe it. It's got a bluesy sort of riff with a bluesy solo, but it comes into a really nice sort of acoustic-y but summery chorus.
Well, it's all a reminiscence of Peart when he was doing a summer job working in Lakeside Park.
Yeah.
I think it's pronounced Dalhousie or Dalhousie. I don't know where this place, Port Dalhousie or Dalhousie. I do apologise if the pronunciation is completely wrong, but it had quite a big influence on him, and it was a happy time for him. He enjoyed it, and I think he's quoted as saying here, at night when the midway closed, we would gather around a fire on the beach singing. Lakeside Park resonated in my life in so many deep ways, especially those fundamental exposures to music that would be forever important. And then he just said, he sort of laments then, he said, it's all gone now. All that's left apart from the memories is the old merry-go-round. So it was, I think it was, he worked, it was some sort of it was an adventure park, I think.
Oh, right. Okay.
I believe so. Yeah, it wasn't, there was a fun fair or adventure park there. Yeah. That's what he's reminiscing about.
Especially like your first job, the job that you're not there for long.
Yeah.
Normally, like if you're at college or you're working somewhere at weekends, say, and you have like your school friends, or your college, like those friends you sort of reunite with later on. But your first set of work friends, don't. People tend to overlook that, don't they? And you do sort of, you know, and that could be just as important at the time. You know, certain parties you would have gone to, or those little summers. It's 1 or 2 years long, but you move on like everyone else. You know, no, so
well, you do, don't
subject, you? Really?
Yeah, you do, and the music sort of captures that perfectly well. Really, it's sort of it sort of just bounces along quite nicely, quite laid back as well. It's got a joyful sound. It's a nice guitar line, as you said, on it, and it's not overly. Although there's some quite big drum breaks on this one, but they're sort of, and they're quite complex, but it's sort of quite subtle as well. But it's just, again, just trying to mimic playing those drum breaks is not easy at all.
No. I quite like the way the song ends as well. I like that, like just ending on the kind of that ding ding. That nice little mellow.
Yeah, it's quite
outro.
Quite subtle outro, really.
So we've got 3 songs sequenced quite nicely. We're in, we're in the new Rush album, and then all of a sudden the listeners at the time, by the sounds of it, it wasn't a lot of them, but now we're
this is where things change. Yeah, this is
now we've got 2 epics back to back. So this is the closing track of side A, the Necromancer. We're going back to Tolkien. We touched on Tolkien with Fly By Night with Rivendell, and now the Necromancer, a 12-minute epic.
Yes, it is. It picks up where Baitor and the Snow Dog left off, really.
Yeah.
And you got the 3 sort of fairly distinct parts of this one, and then of course a character from Baitor and the Snow Dog makes a return. Apparently a changed man, Baitor, and he's a force for good this time.
I thought it was just about Tolkien. Okay.
No, it's about Baitor as well. He's sort of he's brought it back in, but it is a good song. I mean, it starts off very deliberately slow, and of course you've got the narration there, and
it's spoken word by Neil. Apparently,
it is actually spoken by Neil, and he narrates the whole thing. But you wouldn't be able to tell.
It's got some weird effect on his voice.
Yeah, there's a lot of effects on the voice, and this is the only time he ever appears on an album voice-wise. Some people think that he does the spoken bit of a future track called Roll the Bones, but it's not. It's Geddy Lee with his voice heavily treated and dropped down.
Right, okay.
But a lot of people thought, and I must admit, I thought it was Neil Peart at the time, but it's not. It's definitely not. But yeah, what did you think of this song, listening to it?
Oh yeah, great stuff. It starts off, we said earlier about how Rush can be underappreciated with the humour. Some people think they're quite serious band, but no, I think one thing that can be overlooked by Rush is how dark they could get.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is, you know, I say straight off of the 70s because it is the 70s. But no, this is, you know, some dark, serious stuff. This really does sort of paint a picture of a sort of dark, sort of fantasy.
Well, yeah. It definitely is. I mean, the first part, I mean, it's quite deliberate, isn't it? Quite slow, which sort of howls back to Here Again. That sort of tempo, but it's done better here. It sort of it breathes a lot better, and it.
And then that big jam section in the middle is when it really picks up the pace, and
yeah, it does. Yeah, what is it? The Into Darkness, I think, is that part, isn't it? I think, or is that? Anyway, but I don't know about you, but when it does, because you got Neil Peart doing a little drum bit, and then he's doing this sort of big backbeat with a double snare, and then you get this really dirty guitar riff come in.
Yeah, it starts off kind of funky, doesn't it? So it goes, and then it just
but that bit, I think he's really, well, it reminds me. You might say it reminds you of other bands, but for me, that wouldn't be out of place on Black Sabbath album. It's got that sort of feel to it. It's quite dark.
Are you talking about that?
Oh no, not that bit. The slower one.
Oh,
the slower part where it's just like the drums going in. It's that dun 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 dun. dun
oh yeah,
fair enough. The bit that you're talking about, where it's really, people would come to. I think they like a sort of the galloping battle rock, which Iron Maiden become very famous for.
Yeah.
But you've got a precursor to that, because at this time that was sort of unheard of. But Maiden made it their own. But here you've got Rush doing a very early version of it. So it's
I think you've
it's quite interesting.
I think you're onto something there. Definitely. I mean, I think Maiden as well massively borrowed from Thin Lizzy in their early days as well.
Oh yeah,
but,
yeah.
Steve Harris is a massive prog fan as well.
Yeah,
he's often seen chipping into different documentaries and early Genesis. So there's no way this wasn't on his turntable.
No, so and it's only again, this has come from the book that I'm reading, and I listened to it and I thought, oh wow, yeah, you can really hear it. It's always because it's just pushing, which is what Maiden are renowned for. You know, it's just amazing, and then there you go. It just there's Rush doing it in the 70s. You know, quite interesting.
And then we've got the nice little folky fantasy. I don't know.
Do you know what it reminds me of? It's almost because obviously it's supposed to be the whole song is about the between light and dark, isn't it? You've had the very dark, and now you've got this very light, open, airy. To me, it conjures up visions of it's a nice summer's day and there's a gentle breeze and you're driving along the coast somewhere. It's got that sort of feel to it. You know, again, I'm going to say this, you know, it's nice if you're driving in a convertible, and for those who have got hair, wind blowing through their hair and all this sort of stuff. It conjures up that sort of, I mean, that's long since departed from me. It's got that nice, it's quite jubilant. It's quite a jubilant sort of nice guitar sound on it. And that's what makes it, obviously. But it just pushes along very nicely. Yeah, just a nice way to finish the song, and quite rare that it's get that long fade out at the end.
Yeah,
on a song like this, you know, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed. It still sounds quite fresh to me just listening back to it, and listening to the intricacies of it. I'm thinking it's really quite cleverly done.
Do you feel as well, where you've not listened to the album for a while, you've sort of rediscovered it? You've got a found
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know how many times you've played this back, but I assume you've played it back a few times. I've played it back quite a number of times, and sort of each time I sort of heard something a little bit different and thought, oh wow, yeah, yeah, I missed that bit. And
Yeah, I mean, all the best catalogs, you know,
mm,
do that. You know, you should. It's that's why I like doing this show and what I did with Mailing Cast, what I've been doing with my retrospective videos as well.
mhm.
Especially, there are certain bands I like once a year just to go, right, here we go. On the Monday, we're doing this album and I'm
Yeah,
working my way through, you know, and or
yeah,
on to work, on the way to work, one album, on the way back, the next album, just work
yeah,
my way through
yeah,
the catalog bit by bit.
yeah.
And yeah, I think, well, undoubtedly, Rush are one of those bands, and of course, you're gonna have different relationships with different albums at different times, you know, and different
Well,
things
look,
are going to speak to you. Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely, and I think that's the beauty of them. It's a case that they sort of speak into life generally, don't they? And something will strike you one day and mean absolutely nothing to you the next sort of thing. So yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. But certainly, I think the Necromancer was a step up from Bytor and the Snow Dog
yeah, I think
in its complexity, and it just they're pushing it. You can hear them pushing themselves a little bit more musically and pushing themselves in different directions. Whereas
you
Bytor
can
was probably a
well,
bit more strong.
you know where they're going to go as
Yeah.
well. It's great hearing that
Mm,
progression, that they're attempting it.
yeah.
They're not got there yet, but
Uh,
they're having a bloody good go.
yeah.
And
And
yeah, with each step, they're getting closer and closer to where we're going to get. And
indeed. It is interesting because obviously I dare say with the Rush fans at the time, they haven't got the retrospect. They're thinking, what the heck is this? You
yeah,
know, because there's nothing in front, there's nothing beyond it. They can't see.
now if you jumped on at
Mm,
2012 or
yeah,
2112, sorry, or Hemispheres or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Farewell to Kings, going back to Caress of
You
Steel,
can,
you go, oh yeah, this makes sense. But yeah,
yeah, it does make sense.
you've not come back on 2112 though. You've jumped on board with Working Man, and you're
Mm,
going, what the bloody hell's this?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I think there was something that because at this time, certainly on Caress of Steel, it obviously wasn't a good tour. I mean, they were touring with Kiss, so they were supporting Kiss, so that was obviously big enough. But when they were doing their own tour, they called it Down the Tubes or Down the Tubes tour. It was such a they were playing smaller venues, and they ended up because they were losing money. They ended up teaming up with Ted Nugent, who was also going through a bad time at this point as well. So they were sharing costs and a lot.
even in '76, Ted Nugent was struggling then, wasn't
Yeah,
he?
I think he was struggling a little
I thought
bit.
that would have been his heyday. I thought, oh,
I
okay,
think it was after this that he picked up.
yeah.
But again, just little bits of little snippets that you pick up. But I think it got that bad for Rush that they were not earning any money from it, and they couldn't even pay the road crew at this point. It was really that. I think they said where they were playing, they were smaller venues, and they were only half full. It was really quite. It looked
Oh,
quite dire. Looked
yeah.
quite dire, and then of course you'll end up having the record company leaning on them a bit as well.
That's quite mad, really, how
Mm.
defiant they were going forward with the next
Oh,
album. Because
yeah,
taking into account, they must have been feeling the pressure themselves.
yeah, they were.
But
Uh,
yeah, all right. Well, we're halfway through, so let's get into it. This is
oh,
the
yeah.
first attempt, shall we say, at a track taking up an entire side.
Mhm.
So we are getting now into the field of what was it again?
The Fountain of
The
Lamnet.
fountain. Sorry, the field. The
Well,
fountain.
you'd have to go through the field to get to the fountain.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fountain of Lamnev, the first side epic.
20 minutes
Yeah, just I think
total. Song in was it how many parts? One,
it's
two,
in six parts,
six.
although one and six are effectively the same piece of music. But I love the way this starts, and it struck me when I listened to it. I mean, beautiful acoustic guitar. Do you know what it? it reminded me of
Yeah.
is Leonard Skinner, Freebird. Just the way that begins.
Yeah.
Much of that. I know it's not like it, but it's sort of that. And then they start to bring it in. Then it feels a bit Zeppelin-like when it comes in. And then but that seems to be where the similarity ends. Then it really.
I think this is actually more Yes or early Genesis with a beefed up.
Yeah.
That's where the Zeppelin comes in. Like it's like they've gone. Let's. I mean, I don't know what came out when. 76. You might be able to help me with this, but so 76. You probably would have got Foxtrot, Nursery Crime.
Yeah, it was
albums like that.
Yeah, it was around that area. I mean, 76 would
was
have
Selling
been.
England by the pound out by that point?
No, yeah, that was already out. That had already been
Right.
gone. Sort of
I can just imagine them sitting around.
76 actually was around a time of transition for Genesis, because I think that's when Trick of a Tale came out in 76. So it's the last album that they did.
Trick of the Tale was Phil Collins singing.
That was right. Yeah, that was the first one.
That was the first one with Phil.
Yeah.
So Land comes out right.
It might have been.
I can imagine. Right, let's take Selling England by the Pounds.
Yeah.
But with Immigration's song.
Yeah.
Thrown in. You know, like that's how can we get this but beef it up to make it as heavy as this?
Which is
that's what you got.
Yeah, you can hear the influences, but they're taking it in a totally different way. And but again, I think it's catchy, isn't it? I think it is, and I know it's broken down.
Piece of music now, ba-dum, ba-dum,
and
I mean, I can sing that. That's been stuck in my head.
Yeah,
since I first heard it. Every so often, that would just come into my head.
It is, and you've got that sort of tripping bass and the drums with that. It's sort of, you have to really listen to it to try and pick out what they're actually doing, but it's almost like a shuffle. It sounds really it's quite subtle, very clever, and then you get Geddy's voice come straight over the top of it, and you think, yeah, this is definitely Rush. And it's really it's a good opener, because I think because they've broken it down into, and that's how they would do all their side-long epics. They would always be broken down into parts, and obviously this is the precursor to 2112, which obviously we're going to be talking about next time. But the format's here, so they're already breaking the ground here, and and it's an interesting lyric throughout this, and it's about the journey of life, isn't it? It's going from birth to death and being drawn to this fountain of Lamnef, hoping to discover the secret before he dies. It's a very it's an interesting, it makes you think a bit, I suppose, at times. I thought it was very clever, very, very clever, and quite complex, surprisingly complex when you listen to it.
So around, is it part 2 or part 3? But that drum bit.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
well, it's a drum solo.
I'm assuming you open every practice session you do with that.
I do something
that's your warm up.
Yeah, my one, when I used to be on the road in a previous job, and I'd go into the studio after a particularly horrible day, most of the time, on the M25 and being stuck on there for absolutely ages, I would go in and tell the rest of the band to get out, because I'm going to do my M25 detox, and I'll warm up just to get all that frustration out, and then just be able to. So that was my version of it. But this, I mean, it's pretty quick, and obviously it's got a slight effect on the kit. I think it might be some sort of reverse reverb or something on it, or a bit of delay. And
what is it they scream at the end?
There's loads of, because it's not printed. What have I got here? Let me have a look. Now, so that's why I looked at this and looked at these lyrics, because it's called Didax and Narpits, which is apparently Well, didacts is instructions or teachers, and narpits is an anagram of parents. So basically, it's about teenage rebellion. And
Yeah.
your teachers and your parents are saying you should do this and do that. It says, what does it say here? Stay, go, work, know, think, live, earn, give, wait, fight, write, and the outro is listen.
Right. Okay.
That's a sort of a rough, because it was never ever printed.
Yeah.
But that's what it says on there. So I thought it was, but that's basically it's teenage rebellion, rebelling against the instructions being given by our
Yeah.
elders,
No, that makes
our
sense. Yeah.
best. And but it's a nice, well, it is a drum solo. You know, it's effectively a drum solo, and I mean it's pretty quick, and he's changing the emphasis all the time on the rhythm and the downbeat and all this. Yeah. Something to emulate. If I could play, and I've probably said it to you before, if I could play half as well as the late great Neil Peart did, I'd be a very, very happy man. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, you'd like to be as good as Neil on a bad day. Yeah.
Well, actually, that probably would be. That's probably a better one.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So the next part of the song starts off with this sort of dark, melodic, brooding section that sort of builds up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's a
it takes this while to get going, but it's nice and moody and brooding. I quite like that.
It's I'd say arguably it's my favourite piece of this of the side. No One at the Bridge. It's yeah. It's got a nice feel to it. It's sort of very laid back, but it's still got a bit of strength to it. Nice guitar solo on this. I do like the guitar solo on this. And again, I think with Alec Lifeson on this
Yeah, it's
album,
nice and melodic as well.
yeah,
I
I definitely think with his playing on this album, he's so much there's more texture and various sounds, and that I think in here the best word, quite chameleonic. His guitaring on this, he really can. It's quite a variation, you know, very pretty and then quite dark and and joyous, jubilant, you know. But yeah, I liked his solo on this one. I really did. I really enjoyed it. And again, I know we haven't mentioned much about the lyrics, but the lyrics throughout this are really quite clever, really, and sort of things like call out for direction and there's no one there to steer, because this is a part where I think he's stranded on a boat, but there's been a mutiny on the boat and the character is strapped to the mast or something, which is what I was reading. Sorry, bear with us a moment. Yeah. I'll print on this guitar solo. I mean, it says here it's a Genesis inspired guitar solo.
Yeah,
if you listen to it, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think Alex Lifeson actually. There's in the book I'm reading. Actually, they do a bit of discussion about the as much as Zeppelin was an influence on Rush. I don't think Jimmy Page was much of an influence on Alex.
No,
as a player.
There's only certain bits.
Apparently, he expressed more influence just on his guitar playing. Was actually it was actually Steve Hackett.
Yeah, well, that's no bad thing. I mean,
yeah.
Hackett, a fantastic guitarist. You know? And again, Alex has just taken it his own way and parlayed it through his own style.
And I dare say Alex's thinking at the time was, we've already got plenty of Jimmy Pages in the world, because I suppose everyone was copying him at the time.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the line. Ain't that the line from the film in the music shop? No stairway.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and today, I mean, I'm only hearing of the people that have still made it through. I mean, at the time, the bands that were here today, gone tomorrow. Yeah, there must have been loads of them. Yeah, and I dare say there was just as many Robert Plant clones and all the rest of it.
Well, yes.
But yeah, carrying on, because we've still not finished the last song.
No, we haven't. We're still, well, it is a long song.
We've got a nice little folky bit here. Again,
Yeah.
this is straight out of off a Yes album, or
Yeah.
it's kind of folky, and he's, you know.
Yes, it is. It's this is probably one of the nearest of a love song, really, by Rush.
Yeah.
You know, it's but it does get cut short quite quickly, really, doesn't it? When you listen to it, it's sort of, he's with this woman, and then suddenly, no, I've got to go, and boom. And I think that's something that Rush seem to hold on to, is they don't linger too long in one particular thing. They're always forever pushing to change it, which goes right back to the first album, really. Don't you think? It just you get this nice, as you say, nice guitar, and it's quite nice and soft, and the lyrics are quite nice on this one as well. You know, just a meaning for my life, a shelter from the storm, pacify my troubles with her body soft and warm. You know, it certainly paints a picture, doesn't it? But it's,
I don't know, it got like a bit of a medieval feel to it as well.
Yeah, with a bit like Rivendell, which is what I said.
Yeah,
it's sort of, you could imagine them wearing all the curly shoes and singing it, you know, sitting in a tree, you know.
Yeah, it's something like off the Wicker Man soundtrack.
Yeah,
you know,
it's something like that. Just, yeah, it's a distraction to this man's mission, which is something that they would explore again with one of their classic tracks later on, Subdivisions, with regards to rest your weary flight, or rest from your restless flight, sort of thing. So yeah, quite clever. And again, just before you're sick of it, it's already pushing through to the next part.
And then it picks up into a more of a rocky.
Yeah, Bacchus Plateau. Bacchus, of course, is the god of wine, I believe, from the mythology, and it has that sort of jolly feel to it. It's like, say, yeah, come on, let's go down a pub, let's have another drink, let's have another one for the road, sort of thing. It's and it gives that impression, doesn't it? I mean, musically, it does. It's got that nice. You can imagine them raising a glass, and I mean, again, it's quite draw another goblet. Again, it's almost medieval to me, from the cask of 43.
I think it's got a big medieval feeling to it. And I think the Necromancer did as well. I think that like uplifting, sort of breezy, folky bit towards the end, it's like they've come back to the Shire rather than the opposite. We start in the Shire and then it goes dark. This is
it definitely has that Middle Earth feel to it, from The Hobbit, and of course Lord of the Rings. You know, it's got that nice feel to it, but
this has got more of a King Arthur-y sort of feel to me, or maybe a Robin Hood, like more of a medieval.
Yeah, I would say so. It's there's some, again, it's something that's sort of drawing him away from his mission again. That it might be a case of, do I really want to go to the Fountain of Lamneth? But I'd rather keep knocking back this drink. You know, it's again another trap of life, I guess, isn't it? You know, to be swayed.
What's that Greek story where they go to this like fountain or this place, and there's wine and women and song everywhere, and they eat these lotus flowers. They're delicious, but when they realise every time they eat one, a year goes by or something, so it feels like they've been in this place for a couple of hours, maybe. They go, like, we get going. We've been here a few hours, and they leave, and they realise they've been there years.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I'd have
Greek mythology. Something that might be in the Odyssey, something like that. Yeah,
actually, it might be. You might be right there. It might be the Odyssey. Let me see. I'm just having a quick look here, see if there's anything. 43. Yeah. doesn't say much about that. It just says about Bacchus being the Roman god of wine, so the plenty sort of thing, and the joy of that. Yeah, it says the protagonist, the character, has abandoned his dream in favour of drink, and openly and carelessly accepts the futility of life, is what it says on that. He's lost sight of what's important. And the fact is that he says, was it crimson, misty memory, hazy glimpse of me? Give me back my wonder. I've something more to give. I guess it doesn't matter. There's not much more to live. So he sort of, even like says, Johnny, that's sort of quite a bit of a downer. He's sort of like drowning his sorrows.
So he goes on this quest to find this fountain
Yeah.
and decides to just stay in the pub.
Yeah, basically, at this point, you know,
haven't we all?
Yeah, he's been lured by the woman, and now it's the drink. So it probably, again, wine, women, and song, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to think, but women and drink became more important.
So. Yeah, exactly. You know, and we can all understand that. You know, absolutely. The other thing they said about he said the cask of 43. Again, I'm just reading this. It says this particular statement, cask of 43, what could it possibly mean? It's been debated by many Rush fans over the years. It would fit the lyric if it was an allusion to the fact that Albert Hoffman first tested his new respiratory drug, LSD, in 1943, which is interesting. Some believe it's referencing a Spanish...
Rush were never a major...
No, they weren't.
Fan, though, were
they? No, they weren't. No. Some believe it's referencing a Spanish liquor, Myra Bliss, which, owing to its 43 ingredients, known as liquor 43. And some also believe it might be referencing another Ayn Rand reference, class of 43, a group of intellectuals who began to meet in that year. But they don't think it's that because Piet sort of held Ayn Rand in very high regard, so he wouldn't liken her to being something as a pointless distraction. So they reckon it's unlikely. I think it seems to be the most likely one is a particular that liquor 43. They reckon. I don't think it would be the LSD. Although again, we discuss about all sorts of things, and all sorts of things come creeping in. Oh, it could be this, it could be that. Yeah, it again an interesting set of lyrics with this, you know.
Well, camera's gone all blurry. But
was it? Yeah.
Not to worry. We carry on. This what we're saying is most. But
yeah, that's it. I can't think of anything.
Yeah,
else,
and then it basically comes back to the opening, and it goes around that one more time.
Yeah,
you got a bit of a chorus above it as well, and then it sort of just gently lets you down to a nice, mellow, clean playing outro. And has the Phantom of the Method been done live?
I would have to try and research that. I don't know if it was.
You'll find the Necromancer has been.
I think the Necromancer was played live, but I don't know about the Fountain. I'm not sure about it, whether it did. If they were going to play it at any point, it would have been on the Caressa Still tour, I guess. They wouldn't have played it after that.
I don't think it probably would have worked as well quite a lot. Like you can.
No.
There's a lot of starting and stopping, and
yeah, I don't think they did. I think
switching around to acoustic, and then at that point, it's they might as well just played some different songs. You know, it's.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I don't believe they did, but I don't know for certain. The Necromancer, yes, they definitely would have played, and they would have played when they did play. I don't know whether they played I Think I'm Going Bald live. I don't know if they did or not.
If they did, I couldn't have seen it going beyond this tour.
No, it would have only been on this tour. They definitely, Bastille Day, definitely Lakeside Park and Necromancer, they did play. Again, I think they probably only played it on this tour, though. I don't think on subsequent tours it wasn't played. But I'd have to look it up. I'd have to try and have a little delve into the the archives of it and look at, because you can find out set lists and stuff from
Oh,
tour.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, it might be a case of having a see. It'd be interesting. Perhaps that's something we can discuss next time. Although I dare say we've got an awful lot to discuss anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
But but yeah, it is going back to this. It is a nice way to finish the side off, and just a case of, again, wonderful lyrics on that, and that bit again going back to that guitar, and then the lines, was it, I'm in motion, I am still, I am crying, I am still, I'm together, I'm apart, I'm forever at the start, and still I am. I think it's quite profound, really. But basically, at the end of his journey is to try and find the secret. The secret is to live life and enjoy life with all its trials and tribulations, as well as its joys. And that was really that's the secret of the Fountain of Lamnef. That was so it's quite profound.
Yeah, it's what gets you there is what.
Yeah,
it's like the Wizard of Oz, isn't it? He wants to find. He goes to the Wizard of Oz because he wants courage. He's like, well, you've already got courage. That's what brought you here. And
yeah,
the same goes for the brains and the heart. He's like, no, it took brains, heart, and courage to get you all here. You've already got it, you know.
yeah.
And or another one of climbing the pyramid or climbing the mountain.
Mm.
It's like, no, you climb not so much the pyramid, but you climb to get to the top of the tower, because in the tower is like the secret to all the knowledge or whatever.
Yeah.
Then you get into the tower, you get to the top of the pyramid, and it's tight. It's this tiny little room because it's so small, it's so high and at the top.
Yeah.
And you realise all you've got is what brought you there to begin with.
Yeah.
Everything
Yeah.
everything that got you there. Well, there's nothing else to fit in it. What got you there is what it is, you know. Yeah, I like that whole.
Yeah, and that's really what this is all about. It's obviously in their way that they've done it, but it's still it was most enjoyable, and enjoyable and thought provoking, and it surprisingly it still sounded fresh to me just listening to it. And so, say up until this point, I hadn't listened to this album for. I think of all the albums, this was the one I've played the least, and yet it is an extremely important album. Very important.
Very important album for the band in their development. Very important in the canon. And as much as it struggled at the time, I'm sure it hasn't done bad now. I think a lot of people would like to do a flop like that.
Yeah.
And
well, yeah, definitely.
And I think also, I mean, I have this a lot with Ride the Lightning by Metallica. That Master of Puppets was the masterpiece. I like that album before the masterpiece. I always find has a charm to it, because when you know what's coming next, listening to that undeveloped version of it beforehand, it's just got lots of charm to it. It's got lots of it's just, you love listening to that naive version.
That's the word. There is a certain naivety to it, and I think there is a little bit of that with this album. But it's it's clever, but yes, it's still raw's the wrong word. Definitely the
naivety. No, I think raw's the right word.
Yeah, and also a certain naivety and innocence to it. You know, it's just almost ideological. You know, in the way.
And I mean, I don't think we're giving away any spoilers here of what comes next, but one thing I do wonder, I want to ponder with you now, because obviously 2112 opens with the whole first side, a 20-minute 4-part epic, and they whatever fell short on this album, they made it sevenfold on the next album. And maybe that had a lot to do with the culture and what was going on at the time as well. I mean, we had Tommy out at the time, and although Tommy sort of catapulted through the stratosphere, 2112 was a very slow burner. It was bit by bit. The record shops, because it really happened with the record shops. So like, right, we had half a dozen of these. They've all sold. Oh, let's order another half a dozen.
Yeah.
And that half a dozen sold. Oh, well, we'll order another half a dozen. And well, we'll order 12 next time then. And oh, hold on a minute, that's sold as well. They kept reordering it. It wasn't a big hit at the time. It wasn't an instant hit.
No, it
But
wasn't.
the record shops kept reordering it. They were like, well, it's selling. It's slowly and surely, but it is consistently selling. We do shift them, so we will keep ordering them.
Yeah.
And bit by bit, it did pick up. And I think that a lot of people got it because of Tommy. And but I do wonder. So this is an album of two halves, and 2112 is an album of two halves. Maybe we should be pondering this on the next episode, but I've started it now.
Yeah.
I flicked the first domino. But I do wonder if this was the opposite way round. If they open the album with Fountain of Lament and then Bastille Day was the next one, do you think it would have? Was the sequencing of the tracks what they got wrong here, rather than because there's nothing wrong with the music?
No,
really,
no, there is nothing wrong with the music.
And I do think track listing, the order of the track, that can make or break an album.
It can, yeah. You wouldn't think it would because the music should stand up itself. But I think a running order on an album is extremely important. I think you could probably debate this until the cows come home, whether it should have been Fountain of Left completely the other way round. Difficult to say. Really, really difficult to say.
I guess we'll never know at this point.
You're not going to know.
I'm seeing people say 2112 is the classic and la la la, but I have seen it be said. Actually, with time, I think I prefer Crest of Steel. And
well, some people say, and a lot of Rush fans say that the lyrics for generally the lyrical content of Fountain of Lamnef are among Peart's best ever lyrics. And I know Lee has written a bit of it, but they say that I think again, it's a retrospective thing. They think it's probably some of his best work, even at this early stage. I mean,
bear with me one moment.
Yeah.
Let me just see.
Yeah, of course.
Because this comes with a booklet, so we can we can settle this.
Okay, go on.
Especially when we've both got a book each.
Yeah,
this does come with a.
Okay, yes.
I did show this off on the first episode, so those viewers that are really curious. Oh no. All songs written by Lee, Larson and Peart. Well, that's handy, isn't
it? There you go.
No, it doesn't say.
Oh well, there you go.
Oh well, yeah, never mind.
It's again, it's just minute detail, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I think certainly. I mean, talking about the lyrical content, obviously, Peart is the mainstay, and certainly there are times when, and must have happened pretty much throughout their time, that Lee would obviously talk to Neil about lyrics and saying, "Oh, perhaps this line needs to be changed because of actually trying to sing it." So I guess there was some collaborative.
Yeah, there must have been
collaboration, but I think the original ideas were from Peart, and he would. And I know that they were doing that right up to the end as well, because I remember Geddy Lee was talking about it anyway. So there was a certain amount of collaboration, and how about if I sung this line like this, and it's sort of yay or nay, so it went through the filters to be in the finished product each time. So he'll always take the most credit, obviously, Neil.
Oh yeah
for it. But yes, I think I think it sort of leads very nicely. I'm not even going to try and pronounce this Latin phrase. It said there's beneath the print of the Necromancer lyric is the following Latin phrase. I mean, I can't see it anyway. Terminat horror diem, terminat alter opus, phrase meaning the hour finishes the day, the author finishes his work. And it says here, concludes Christopher Marlowe's play Dr. Faustus. I don't know what that is. It says here about no lyrics for Diodax and Narpets. Fountain the section of, and it says the album is dedicated to the memory of Rob Serling, the creator and presenter of the famous TV program The Twilight Zone.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
So an interesting fact to finish on, I guess, because I think we need to talk about, with regards to the record company putting pressure on the band as a precursor to looking at the next album. I think rather than talking about it now, I think not that it would.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not much to say about it anyway.
No, I think because it does.
Yeah, because
it ties into how the album turned out. So
and also how they were feeling at that time. So I think it ties in quite. All
right. Well, I've kind of given my conclusion on the album. I think it's a good, massive, important album in terms of the band's development, and I think the album's aged quite well. Because talking through it tonight, there's certainly nothing wrong with the music. I think it was just a bit ahead of its time, and audiences didn't quite know what to make of it.
Yeah. I think so.
But I think overall though the album's aged wonderfully, and I don't think time's vindicated it. And I'll let you.
I totally agree with you. I think again, just statistically, charts in Canada it was number 60. UK again didn't chart at all. US it was 148, and it was worse. It was worse than the previous two albums. I mean, Fly By Night in Canada was number 9, so I mean that's quite a drop, even in Canada.
I mean, the thing is as well.
I know. Don't look.
They were allowed to have a flop. That would be unforgivable now. This would never have happened. No. And imagine. But even then, even if it went, do you know what? No, this is it. It's all over. And then the band went, all right, well, that was fun while it lasted, and split up. Even now, those 3 albums. That's not a bad little catalogue, is it? They'd be reissued now in some package, and they go out as one of the most underrated trilogy of albums.
I think it is.
And everyone would be going, imagine if they carried on.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I think I've got nothing more to say than what you said. I think it's hugely underrated album, and very much an important album, a massive stepping stone. I like yourself, and I agree with you, it was ahead of its time. And if possibly they were sort of, I don't know if they were playing beyond themselves, but I think the arrangements, they were probably pushing it beyond what they were used to, definitely. And I think they were. Oh, and the other thing on this one, with regards to the artwork, this is the first album that their long-term artist, Hugh Syme, this is the first album he did with them, with all the picture and the cover. Right. And this is the first of, and he was the artist and for all the other albums, but this is his first one with the band, and he would be there right up to the end.
Yeah, very important. Well done for pointing that out.
I'd almost forgotten it.
That's quite a good T-shirt as well.
Yeah. It's interesting. They said that it was supposed to be silver, and it's sort of more like a copper finish because it's steel. It was supposed to be silver, like steel, but I think they had some problems with the colour printing and stuff like that, and it came back.
There's actually a picture of a T-shirt there.
Look, picture. That's it. Oh yeah.
I think that looks really cool. I'd buy that if I saw that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
it's cool. But so Joe.
Right, another one done.
Yeah.
3 episodes. No stopping now. We've started. We're rocking.
Yeah, definitely.
So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you follow along with us. Listen to the album that's coming up. Use this as your introduction, or use it or listen to the album and then listen to this at the end with us. do it whichever order you want to do it. And if this is your first episode, go back to the beginning. There's still time to catch up. And journey through Rush with us. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
And this is what Rushcast is all about. So
Absolutely.
Thanks very much. And we'll see you next week for 2112, the daddy.
Yeah.
And we'll look forward to that. So, thanks again, mate. I'll see you next week.
Thank you. Cheers, everyone. See ya. Bye-bye.